Hi, you guys. There were tons of you gone yesterday. So because of that, I am going to quickly go through the lesson that we went through in class so you can kind of catch up to where we're at. So yesterday we learned about something that is called the slope formula. The slope formula is something that you can use to find the slope of a line without having to graph the points and count the rise over the run. Okay, you can see with the slope formula that on the top, we have the change in y. Okay, just like if we were counting our slope, we always count the change of y first. That's our rise. Okay, but in the slope formula, we're going to do that by using subtraction instead of counting. And then on the bottom, you can see that on the bottom, we find the change of x or the run. Okay, so basically, what we're going to do is we are going to take our 2 points. And instead of graphing them and counting, what we're going to do is we're going to label them. This is the x, this is the y, this is the x, this is the y. And then we're going to find the difference in the y's by using this slope formula. Okay, so the slope formula is just the y minus y over the x minus the x. So what we do is we take, and instead of the y in our formula, we're going to plug in a 4. Okay, so if we do this y, we're now going to do our subtraction sign, and then we do our other y, 4 minus 7. That goes on the top of our fraction. On the bottom of our fraction, because we did this y minus this y, we're going to have to do this x minus this x. Okay, so on the bottom, we do our change of x. We do our 2 minus 1. And now when we simplify that, that just gives us our slope. 4 minus 7 is negative 3, so that's our rise. And then 2 minus 1 is 1. So we are finding our rise and our run by just using subtraction to help us find the amount of change. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at B. So if this is my x, this is my y, this is my x, this is my y, to find slope, all I'm going to do is take my slope formula, which is y minus y over x minus x, and I'm going to find my rate of change. I'm going to find my change of y by using subtraction. So I take the y, then I do a subtraction sign, and then I take my other y, and then I take my x, and then I do a subtraction sign, and then I take my other x. So basically all we're doing is plugging these values right here into this formula, and then we're simplifying. 3 subtract a negative 5 becomes 3 plus 5, which is 8. Negative 1 minus 5 is a negative 6. When you simplify that in your calculator, you're going to find that your slope is negative 4 over 3. Okay, so let me show you another one. So to find slope using the slope formula, it is way easy, okay? All you're going to do is label your 2 points. You always do that first, label your 2 points. The next thing that you do is you take your formula, you're just going to substitute these values in to this formula right here. Okay, so you start with doing the y. So y minus y. That's going to give us an 11 minus 22 over x minus x. So that's going to be 8 minus 10. So when we simplify that, that gives us negative 11 over negative 2, which in the end simplifies to a positive 11 over a positive 2. Okay, let's do one more. So to find slope using 2 points, your steps are label your ordered pairs, xy and then xy, and then take your slope formula, which says you find the change of y by using subtraction, and then you find the change of x by using subtraction, and then you simplify that for slope. Okay? So we're going to do 9. We do our minus sign, and then we do 6. Okay, because our y minus our y is going to be 9 minus 6. And then we have to do our x minus x, so negative 1 minus a negative 1. Now, when you do this one, you have to be super careful because you have a -1, then you need your subtraction sign, and then you need a -1. And so what's going to happen here is this is really going to be adding a positive, so you end up with 3/0. And anytime you have 0 underneath your fraction, you say that is undefined. So that means this is a vertical line. If you graph the point -19, so -19 would be right here, and then -16 would be right here. So if you draw a line through those, you can see that it's a vertical line. And vertical lines are the ones whose slope is undefined. Okay, so that is the first part. And then the next part that we did is we talked about finding the rate of change from a table. So it says choose 2 ordered pairs from the table and use the slope formula to find rate of change. So rate of change and slope are the same thing. So rate of change is really just slope, which makes sense because we've been talking about slope as the change of y over the change in x. Okay, slope is just our rate of change. So anytime you see rate of change, that just means slope, which means the steepness of your line. Okay, so if you're going to find slope from a table, you first have to identify 2 points in the table that you're going to use. I think it's easiest if you just use the first 2. You could use any of the points though, okay? So let's go ahead and write these 2 points as ordered pairs. So 0, 5, and then 1, 5.5. And then let's label the ordered pairs. So this is the x, this is the y, this is the x, the 1 is the x, and the 5.5 is the y. And then to find slope, which is really what you're finding when you find rate of change, you're going to use your slope formula. Okay, so instead of this y, you plug in the y from your ordered pair. And then you have your minus sign. And then instead of this y, you plug in the other y. That's your change in y. And then to find your change in x, instead of this x, you plug in 0. And then you plug in your minus sign. And then instead of this x, you plug in a 1. Okay. So then from there, we would have -0.5 over -1. When we simplify that, which just simplifies to a 0.5. And then in your calculator, if you want to make that a fraction, you just do 0.5 and then do the fraction to decimal function. So your slope ends up being 1/2. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do the other table really quick. So finding slope from a table, it's exactly the same as finding slope from 2 points. Because all you're going to do is you're going to take your table and you're going to find 2 points that you're going to use to do the slope formula. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this table. Let's just use the first 2 points. So let's write those as an ordered pair, 3, 15 and 8, 15. And then we label our ordered pair xy and xy. And then we use our formula y minus y over x minus x to figure out our slope. Okay, so instead of this y, we're going to use the y from our first ordered pair. So that would be 15. Then we have our minus sign that we have to write down. And then instead of this y, we do the y from our second ordered pair. So 15 minus 15. And then we are going to take, instead of this x, we use the 3. And then we have our minus sign. Instead of this x, we use the 8 from our ordered pair. And now we simplify, which gives us 0 over -5. And anytime you have 0 divided by anything, your answer is going to be a 0. So basically, the slope of the line that passes through these points is going to be 0, which means that this line is a horizontal line. It's completely flat. It has 0 steepness or 0 slope. Okay, And then the last two that we talked about, let's just go through those really quickly. So if you want to find out what your rate of change is for number 4, it says that a web designer charges customers an initial consultation fee plus an hourly rate. The table shows the linear relationship between X, the number of hours, and Y, the total cost of hiring the designer. So a web designer is someone who designs websites. That's what they do. And the way that website designers get paid is they get paid for the first initial visit. That's called the initial consultation, where you talk to them about what you want your website to look like. And then after that, they get paid per hour. So you can see in this table, as the number of hours increases, the total cost of having the website designer do the work increases, which makes sense. Also, you need to know that with a table, this column is always X and this column is always Y. So if you're going to find the rate of change is just slope. So to find slope, you need to identify 2 points that are in the table and then write those as ordered pairs. So 2, 205, and 5, 400. And then you label your ordered pairs X, Y, X, Y. And then you use your slope formula, which is Y minus Y over X minus X, to find your rate of change. Okay, so we're going to do 205 minus 400 over 2 minus 5, and that gives us a negative 195 over a negative 3, and when we divide those two, we get 65. And what that means is our rate of change is 65. It's $65 per hour to pay the website designer. Okay, so just as a reminder, rate of change just means slope. To find slope, you have to find 2 points that are in your table. And then you take those 2 points that are in your table, you use your slope formula. The slope formula helps you find your change in Y over your change in X without having to graph and count. Okay, so that should get you caught up so that you can do today's assignment, I believe. Okay.